Hello, welcome to the Overnight Ramblings podcast with Seth Melendez. This is another try at a different genre or a different type of topic. I thought I'd just do freeform in a sense about current events, social, political stuff, whatever comes up. I don't, I might talk about sports, might talk about whatever, but it's just things that have been bothering me, and this is my overnight discussion. At times, me and my wife talk about things in the middle of the night, and she goes, "Man, you just talk about this on your podcast." So, let's try that. I was doing a lot of technology stuff before this, so let me just start off. My name is Seth Melendez. Been in the IT industry for over 20 some odd years. As of late, I've been recovering. I had a weird incident last year where what they call a pericarditis. They didn't get COVID. And I've been dealing with that for the last year. And so that's one of the topics I had wanted to talk about, just dealing with that. And that kind of fits into the other subject that I was talking about with my wife earlier, is there were a couple of like celebrity suicides lately. And in July, I went through a major operation with the pericarditis. It was pericardectomy, where they literally crack your chest open, go in and remove the inflamed skin that's around your heart. While it's not really heart surgery, all intents and purposes, it is to your body. They don't do anything to the heart. They just do something to the outside skin. And that had calcified, and they had taken that out, and there were no issues. And I'm in recovery. I'm like about 3-4 months. Obviously, it's just July, so we're talking 5 months later, 6 months later. So yeah. So, and it's taking its toll, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But one of the things that happen while when you're dealing with this, and for a little bit, it took about a year for it to really be solidified that it was pericarditis, because there was a lot of things that were going on that they kept saying, well, is it or isn't it? Finally, they said it was, and I went to the Hackensack cardiac unit, and Dr. Modi and Dr. Batsides. Dr. Batsides is the surgeon up there. He's one of the best, if not. And then Dr. Modi, she's definitely equal to him. He's a surgeon, she's a practitioner, and I don't remember if she does surgery, but they're the best up there, up at the Hackensack hospital. But there was some issues and a lot of things going on, and so first they wanted to do it, go do everything through medicinal reasons, to give me a lot of medicines, and there were some complications. But while I was there and dealing with all this throughout the year, I wound up having to go back a bunch of times and be in the hospital. There were sometimes I was there for testing, and then there were times that I was in pain. It brings you to a dark time, really dark. And they didn't know what was going on. And when people don't know what's going on, and some of my other numbers, my liver numbers, and liver enzyme numbers were acting up, and there were issues with some numbers on a kidney, and I had just been diagnosed not too long before this with diabetes. I'm a big guy. I was about 450, 460 when this was going on. And, this was, almost 8 months after I was diagnosed with diabetes, and there were other issues slowly creeping up, and then finally got hit with this, which threw everything for a loop. And I hadn't caught COVID during this time, not once. So long story short, I'm there now. Finally getting ready to do some preoperative stuff. They've determined the medicine doesn't work. They need to go in now, becoming very short-winded. I'm swelling a lot. They see my liver enzyme numbers are just going off the charts. They're like, we have to go in before things start to fail. So they went and did it somewhere in July 12th, 21st. I don't remember the date. But went in, they did whole prep, and going, and it's dark. You feel alone. Physically, I couldn't walk too far. I was in pain, and that was a side issue. Pain in my stomach. I was bloated all the time. And I have a chronic back issue as it is. So just one of those things where I just wasn't feeling right. and I wasn't going right. And I was losing it mentally and physically. I was losing. Spiritually, I've been beating myself up for a while. Some issues going on spiritually, not with the whole, oh, I don't believe in God thing, but I was having a problem with my church. Seventh-day Adventist, and I was having an issue with some people in my church, put it that way, and one of them included the pastor. So we were at odds at that moment, and I really wasn't engaging with a lot of the people there. I felt I was a little bit upset. Like I said, I always believe in God. I have you can't shake my faith in that sense. But during this point, I was feeling disconnected, and I was dark. And there was a point where I was so scared, didn't know what was going to happen. I just said, you know what? It's in your hands. If my death is meaningless, so be it. If it has a purpose, so be it. It was in your hands. Just take away my fear, take away everything else, and whatever your will is your will. And that's one of the reasons I made it through. Then I have a wife, amazing woman. It's a pain in my ass, but amazing woman. I can't trade her for anything. She jokingly says, she's in her 40s. Oh, can't say those things. Women don't like telling their age. She's, but I can trade her in for 2 20-year-olds now. Like, for what? I can't afford what? Do I need 2? Yeah, especially 2 young ones. Get out of here. So anyway, the situation was dark, and my wife toughed it out. And then during the period of that time, one of our dogs died. We had lost multiple animals along the way, and it was, emotionally it was getting, and during that time, her mother was also sick. So my wife was a trooper. Then they started requiring them to drive back to work. This is now we're talking this past summer of 2022. When we get to it, that she's starting to have to drive to work, and she's up in Secaucus, which luckily was not too far from where I was at Hackensack, but she was having to drive an hour and change to work, go to work, do her thing, leave work at 5, 6 o'clock, and come see me drive to where I was for another, I don't know, it's like 30, 40 minutes depending on traffic, and then come see me, spend time there, and then come home. And we had lost one of our most beautiful dogs, Blue, around that time. He wound up with a crazy prostate thing, and it's a long story, but he died, and I could never visit him. I couldn't get out. This was happened a few weeks before the procedure. I was there for doing some prep work, and I had to spend a couple of days there, and he died during that, and I couldn't leave, and I felt bad. But anyway, so the emotion was real crazy, and I got to give her credit because she stuck with me. And at one point, she didn't think I was going to make it. I didn't think I was going to make it to the end of the year. It's right now 12/16. God could take me out any time. But I'm hopeful that, we can make it through the end of the year. Health is getting better. Everything's getting better. But life is life. So anyway, during these dark times, I had my faith. I had dealt with a couple of therapists, had some anger issues, and I know there were some marriage issues some years back, and I found a guy to talk to, and he actually helped me out a lot. But other than that, when I was a kid, they might have had some counselor to talk to. I never really dealt with anyone. I did have a couple of confidants that I could speak to, but when I'm working through issues, I think this is a problem with a lot of people, and this is why, just to segue back to what I'm wanted to talk about is, I think a lot of people start becoming very isolated. You isolate yourself from friends, from family. I'm a very private person. I don't like people in my business. If I'm hurting, I don't really share that with people. People can ask me, hey, how you doing? Great. How you been? Okay. Any number of answers, but it usually isn't, oh, my stomach hurts, I'm this hurt. So a lot of the times, nobody really cares. So I've isolated myself. Spoke to my mother weekly. I really wasn't forthcoming with her because my mother's a very big worrywart, and I apologize for her that. I apologize to her for that because she should have known, and I know she gets, but I didn't want her. My mother's in her 80s. Didn't want her to be worried. I know she's a grown woman. It's her choice. I just didn't want people worrying about me. And at least, that's what we say to ourselves. We start isolating ourselves. We start building a little igloo and embarrassment, things like that. I think you start going through the whole range of emotions. And I think that's the problem with us guys. I think we start feeling like we can't speak. I don't think I'm fortunate that I don't have a wife that looks down at stuff like that. I can be emotional if necessary. I can be turn 52 this year, and I don't know, maybe it's being an old guy getting older, but you start talking puppy, you want to tears start swelling up, things like that. I jokingly say. So I can sit here and watch videos, movies, and things can make you a little choked up. But I don't have to hide it with my wife. She's really good with that. And when it comes to other things, she's not that type of woman that has an idea of, oh, you're a man, you have to, you this is your role, this is the way you should be. My wife's not like that, and I'm fortunate. I've seen other people that have spouses that are very rigid with those things, and I'm glad that I don't have to deal with that. So with that said, so I had my wife, but at times it wasn't enough. She wasn't there, because she'd leave 8:00 by myself. You get your medications, whatever it is, around that time, and all you had to do was prepare for bed. I wasn't not a TV person. I hate commercials in that sense, because I watch TV. I download what I was going to download, and I watch it without commercials. But going through and watching commercials and sitting there, I can't do it. And so I couldn't sit there and watch the TV. And I think right around that time I was having issues with my server. I had a chance to fix it. So, it was isolated, and you start feeling alone. You start feeling in dark. And I can understand where people walk down that path, and they keep to continue. So I empathize with them. I just heard of, I think yesterday, Twitch boss killed himself. A couple of days ago, you had the Green Ranger, Frank, what was his name? Jason David Frank. And then you had Stephen Boss, Twitch boss. He killed himself from Ellen's show. And in that, because of that, those two incidences, I thought I'd talk about this, because for men, I think this is something that can really be scary. You don't have anyone to talk to. And if you don't have a foundation in spirituality, religion, whatever you want to call it, if you don't have a faith, let me put it that way. If you don't have a faith to believe in, it can really get difficult. If you don't have some type of foundation. Look, if you're an atheist, if you don't believe in yourself, or if you don't have a hard foundation in something, you're going to get lost. You can be a Buddhist, you can be a Muslim. If you're not strong in your faith at that moment, when you have the least of it, you're going to get lost. And that's what happened to these gentlemen. Both looked like they had it together. Both, looked like they were successful, had families. Both of them had young kids, married. I think Jason David Frank, him and his wife had a couple of problems. There's no issues. I didn't hear any issues with Twitch and his wife. He had just did a video a few days ago that I saw. He was doing a dance challenge. He looked happy. They both looked happy. Jason David Frank, he went and was the guy to play the Green Ranger. He killed himself in a bathroom. And that was something that triggered a few years back, number of years back, in 1998, a friend of mine, Joe Vasquez, killed himself. The week or so right before Thanksgiving. I think it was the week of the 16th, the weekend of the 16th of November, 1997 or 8. I think it's 97. Yeah, it was 97. He killed himself. And, it reminded me, because the reason I say that is because Uh, Jason David Frank killed himself the same way. He killed himself in the bathtub by hanging himself off the shower nozzle, and that's been on my that's been on my mind because he killed himself roughly around the same time, right before Thanksgiving. So it's been something that's been bothering me in the back of my mind. And then with this guy killing himself, my wife had been telling me for a while, I should be doing these type of podcasts for things like this and other incidences that I want to talk about, because I talk with her, and Dutch, I talk her ears off sometimes, and I apologize for her for that. So, because I can talk. Anyone who knows me knows I can talk. So I figured I'd do this, and in those incidences, I just think that it's not the wife's fault. It's not the kid's fault. I just think somewhere in there, you just keep going down that path, and then you figure there's no way back. Twitch shot himself. It takes a lot of planning. Pick the gun up, go to the hotel, prep everything, do whatever you're doing, and then kill yourself. I was watching one of the I forgot his name. He's a SEAL. He has a podcast, a former SEAL, Navy SEAL, and he had on one of the Delta Force guys, and they were talking about things. And this guy was also suicidal at one point, and that is just dangerous. They talk about the paths they go down, and the one guy came back because of his wife and because of his faith. The other one came back because people intervened, but they were close to doing it. They both had guns in their hands ready to do the thing. It's a path, and all I can say, I don't have any answers. I'm not a doctor. I just know the path. I understand the path. I've been fortunate that I've stopped along the way, and you don't keep going down that path. You're just so alone. You just so feel so isolated. And I could say it's a delusion at times. You're not isolated. I think that's if we want to get spiritual about it, it's a devil's delusion. He's deluding you to think it's worse than it is, to make you think you've dug a hole deeper than you have. And if you want to think of it in atheist terms, it's your mind is playing tricks on you. I just think this isn't a religious or non-religious argument here. This is your mind has gone too far in a way to isolate you. Now, if you want to use that spiritually or not, all I can say is the safest way to do it's you have put yourself in, or it could be a series of mental issues or lack of sleep or whatever's going on, but you're mentally you are just down this path, and you're just all alone. And if anything, something I can say is just say stop for a second. I wish I was there for Joe. I don't know these other two guys. If I could have said something to them. I was there for another friend some years back when he wanted to kill himself, and I was there. Somebody called me and said, "Hey, you think he wants to kill himself?" I called him, talked to him, and listening to him, the first thing that came to mind was Joe, because I hadn't, at the time when Joe killed himself, we weren't talking to each other for some stupid reason. It was really because he lived with me, and we had a falling out. He left. Here's a number of years later, we hadn't talked in the intervening time, and I had been reaching out, trying to find him right around the period when he killed himself. So I felt a little guilty, because I'm like, man, if I'd been able to talk to him, I could have solved this. It's not true. But you always think you can, not everybody is being honest with you when they tell you, are you okay? When my wife would come see me, how you feeling? We talk about the pains, but I don't know I didn't know how to explain it to her. Since then, I've talked to her about all this. I got to give it to her after the operation, and I was in pain like you wouldn't believe. I could barely walk. I had to walk 20 feet to the bathroom. They allowed me to take a shower that day, and I was in so much pain. Actually, let me back that up. This was actually before the operation. I was still already in pain because of the bloating and all the other stuff. And my back was acting up. And, my wife helped me. Walked into the shower. I was more afraid of all the pain and everything. The biggest concern of mine was slipping. There's no little duckies and no little things in the ground. I was always concerned about those things. When you're a big guy and you're old, you fall, things break. And I was, treading very lightly. And I really couldn't lift my arms. I couldn't do a lot. And my wife said, I'm here. I got you. And she actually helped me take a shower. Actually took me a shower. She wiped me down. She took care of me. And she gave me a hug and gave me a kiss and said, I am here with you right now. And I have no better place to be but with you. And I don't want to be anywhere else but with you. And, broke down. I was crying. And she stuck with me. All I can say is at that moment, there's nothing. She's got a get out of jail pass with me. I don't know if I should say that out loud, but she's definitely got a get out of jail card with me. That was a moment that definitely helped me. And then with the operation and with everything else that happened, she reiterated the same thing a number of times. They let me take showers, things like that. I hated hospitals. I hate hospitals, put it that way. I can only suffer them for about 10 days, 12 days. And if you're a big guy, anybody knows the beds are uncomfortable. I hated using the urinals. I hated the food. Well, food weren't that bad, but I hated a lot of things about that. I don't like being dictated to. There's a lot of issues going on, and I know these people meant well. They were helping, and with therapy, stuff like that. But you get some people in there that they just want to dictate to people just because they can, especially when you're in a vulnerable position as men. And most of the people in that cardiac wing were men, at least on the floor I was in. I didn't see any women up there, in various ages and various severity of heart conditions. I had a guy who was a former cop next to me. And prior to that, there was a guy who was a retiree from the post office. He was there. So it was, and these guys were vulnerable. And some people, take that as a sign of weakness. And I think that's where a problem comes in. But I digress on that part. One of the biggest things is I can say is, sometimes people just need a hug. People need to be told, they say, I'm okay. Look them dead in their eyes. Just tell them how you feel. I love you, regardless to what. Call people out of the blue. Look like I did with my boy that time when I found out that he had wanted to kill himself. When I talked to him on the phone, I knew something was up. When I looked him in the eyes, when I went to go see him, I knew I couldn't allow that Joe to happen again. I wasn't going to sit by and allow that to happen. And, I remember looking at him and saying, dude, either we do this the good way, we do this the bad way, but we going, and he was admitted and all that stuff. And he ultimately helped him out a lot because he was like, I'm not that crazy. When he came out, he was like, there's some really crazy guys in there. I'm not that crazy. Put him a lot of things in perspective. But one of the biggest issues was sleep that he had. And I know for me at times, sleep can be a major issue in keeping me focused or not cloudy, my mind cloudy. And I think I would put any large amounts of money to say that that's one way we disconnect and get isolated is lack of sleep. I have sleep apnea, so I understand the power of not getting good sleep, and I understand the power of getting good sleep. And for me and others that I've talked to, one of the biggest things if you get admitted into one of these psych wards as a patient, whether it's voluntary or the cops bring you in, one of the first things they do is put you to sleep, let you sleep. They give you all these other drugs, but they put you to sleep. And that's one of the biggest hurdles. And a lot of people have this lack of sleep, and they don't realize that it's detrimental to your brain. The longer you go without sleep, that you start hallucinating by day 5. I think that the guy who created rock and roll, Well, to credit the term rock and roll, that DJ. He did that contest where he was going to stay up the longest, and by day 4, 5, or whatever it was, I think it was day 4, he was hallucinating, and he never was the same again after that. That's dangerous, and I think a lot of people walk around with lack of sleep, and the closer you get to that 4-day mark, and it's accumulative. So even if you can't catch up mentally, sometimes you can't really catch up. You have to get to sleep. And you start hallucinating. And I think that's a territory where when you start having a lack of sleep, you may have some mental issue going on, or you may have some chemical imbalance going on, or maybe you're taking drugs and alcohol, and that's throwing you off mentally and chemically. These are things that, you start going down that alley and down that path, as I say. It's dangerous, man. And I really wish we couldn't, as men, there's a stigma with military. If you say anything, they're going to ruin your career. Same thing with police. If you say anything, it can ruin your career. A lot of men feel that way. If I come out and say I need time for a mental, check or a mental respite, people are like, oh, just take your vacation. There's a big difference taking a vacation and going on a trip somewhere versus, going somewhere to deal with some mental issues. It's hard, for a lot of people. It's hard for me, when you're dealing with, anxiety, or some people have a large depression. I don't know if what I was dealing with was depression because of what was going on and not knowing all the details originally and not understanding what was going on. And then once you did, you get nervous, you get scared, dealing with some of the prep stuff, dealing with catheterizations, nuclear catheterizations. I think that's what they call, where you drink a dye and they have the catheter in you up in your heart. And they also checking pressures with the catheters. That stuff can be scary just on its own. Then the day comes and you got to go under, and they got to crack your chest open. While the numbers are low with issues, it still could be scary. And recovering from that, me being overweight and that I didn't do any, we've looked at it. They've done the pathology and everything. They did everything. There was nothing I did to cause that virus, or the virus that caused this issue. Nobody knows what the virus is. It wasn't COVID. Never got COVID. But me being out of shape didn't help once I did get this virus and created the pericarditis that I, suffered from. So my health wasn't conducive, in helping this situation. Actually, it just made everything that I was dealing with worse. I know some people have been dealing with pericarditis recently, and you hear, the cyclical nature of that. But those things can really be scary and, scared to death. You think of your mortality, you think of everything going on. You think of all the things that, you're dealing with. I had my own company. I had to shut it down. I was dealing with this for a while. Money issues. You're dealing with mental issues, physical issues. Biggest thing I was thinking of is, what happens when I go? What happens when I go? I actually even at one point on my phone just typed up a will. Just basically just found some crappy form and typed in the information I needed and just saved it. And I put it in the folder. My wife and I have a shared folder on our Dropbox where if I put something in there, it automatically show up on her side. And I had put some files in there, right before I went into the operation. I put the will file in there. I don't even think she noticed it was in there, because after I got out, I took it out and I didn't want to scare her, but it's actually still back in there. Which is something that we should do. These are the type of things you get scared. I was scared shitless. So I can imagine what these guys are going through. Well, actually, I can't. Let me even say that. I can't imagine the fear that they were going through that led them down this road. That, you know, talk to the Navy SEALs, or you talk to the people, you hear stories from the people. I don't know what everything I've gone through, with all the fears and everything. It's bewildering and humbling that there could be another layer or a deeper place that you can go to and be more fearful and more, where the only answer is suicide. That it just, I just feel blessed that I didn't go down that path. I'm blessed that, you know, I, you know, had something else to lean on. And all I want to know is, all I want in this discussion is for men to go out and take their health seriously. Mental health, physical health, definitely. That's a whole different topic. And so since that operation, I've dropped over 100 pounds. So just anyone listening, so I'm about 360 right now. So I just want people to, a lot of men to take care of themselves, man. If you're not there, then what? Death is not better option. There's no better options. You're just dead. And I always tell people, look, you want to take care of everything on this side of the operating table or this side of the hospital, because in there it is terrible. You know, I was there, 10 days, 12 days, and I wanted to kill people at the point. I am not a hospital person, not because, you know, I just want to be in my own bed. I can't stand at bed. I wound up wrecking my shoulders while I was there. Both my shoulders, I wound up with issues with them hurting because of the beds, because I couldn't find a way to get comfortable, because if I sat up too long, my back hurt. So like I said, I had a chronic back issue. I have a chronic back issue. And if I lay down too much, you know, things like the neck hurt. So it was just this fight and this way to, I was bursitis. I got bursitis in both shoulders, you know, the inflammation. And it was painful. So, and that happened while I was there, because prior to me going in, I didn't have it. There's a lot of other issues and things that happen while you're in the hospital sometimes, you know, and I just want people to understand that. And I don't know anything, but there are people out there that can help you, whether it's a pastor, whether any type of religious, you know, leader can help you with, or therapist if you're not into that, or talk to your friend, all I could say is, if you're going through something, reach out to somebody. It's a shame. And these guys aren't old. And I'm not saying old people deserve to kill themselves. All I'm saying is they're young. I think Twitch was 40. Jason David Frank was in his 40s. You know, some of the SEALs, these guys were all in their 30s. And you know, yeah, you hear it all the time. You know, I'm 52 now, and, you know, there are people offing themselves. And I'm like, I wish somebody was there to talk to them before this. I wish somebody would have known to speak to them. And yeah, so that's all I wanted to say. I just wish you and everyone have a great day. The whole audience have a great day that's coming up, a great morning, and the rest of your day. If you have a problem, please send someone a note. Please send somebody. Talk to someone, because you're isolating yourself. And I don't want to keep hearing about people killing themselves. I know it's a childish wish to not, you know, people to, you know, commit suicide. But I just wish people would, you know, just talk to your friends. That's basically, I want, you know, the people surrounding other men. I just think that a lot of times no one cares. And this isn't one of those, you know, misogynistic and incel type things. Everybody's going about their life, and if you say everything's okay, they're pushing to the next issue. Everybody's pushing up then to the next issue, and no one's gonna think about it. You're good? Okay, next issue. So it's not that no one really gives a damn about you, but they've moved on to the next issue and they're working on through the mountain of other problems and things they need to deal with. So, and sometimes these things are rhetorical. There are people that say, how you doing? And they really don't want to know the answer. You know, it's just, you hear, I've seen some, older people, somebody asked them, how you doing? And they start telling you about all the issues. Oh, my back hurts. And be like, no, you can just see the face of the other person. Like, nope, I didn't want to hear all that. And you're like, okay, you asked. So please have a great day. Look out for each other. Love you.